Hey everyone, if you're watching this video, we're going to take a deep dive on how to land a job in the NHS in 2026 as an immigrant or international student who needs visa sponsorship. So make sure that you listen carefully. We're going to be talking about it in a lot of detail. Now, let's get started. You see, the first thing about NHS is you need to understand how the NHS works. NHS is completely different to the private sector. Number one, they don't like using CVs. Number two, their interview structure is completely different, and the way that they structure their roles are completely different. These are the three basic things. We're going to cover everything in detail now. So the first thing you really need to understand is how does the NHS actually work? And that is by mapping the NHS structure. You see, NHS has different trusts all throughout the UK. They have NHS England, and then NHS England has many different trusts like East Lancashire, Manchester, and so on. Then NHS Scotland is a different entity completely, and they have their trusts. Let's say, for example, the trust in Fife, the trust in Tayside, the trust in Stirling, Edinburgh, and so on. So there's many different trusts that you can apply to, and you need to essentially determine what NHS trust fits you best. The second most important thing is understanding what type of role you're going to be going for. Is it going to be a clinical role? Is it going to be a non-clinical role? That is super important. Once you've determined that, then you need to understand what band you're going to pick. See, NHS has various different bands. It varies for medical doctors, but most international students are either applying to clinical or non-clinical roles, and they've got band 1 to 9 essentially. Now, band 1 being the most junior, band 9 being the most senior. If you want to get sponsorship, ideally try to target band 5, 6, 7 roles. This is where international students see the most success. Obviously, we talked a bit about the trusts. Now, what this means is if you target the right trusts, then you will get sponsored. Let's take a more detailed dive into it. What does that actually mean in practical nature? NHS trusts receive different funding, and they're located in different areas all around the UK. So, what we need to essentially understand is that one NHS trust might have more funding than the other, and they might be able to sponsor an individual more easily as compared to an NHS trust in XYZ location. So, you need to do your research to see what type of NHS trust is actively sponsoring, and we actually help you figure that out inside TGN. And if you don't know what TGN is a graduate network community that I've created. Essentially, we help international students land NHS roles inside it. And if you're someone that does want to apply for NHS roles, whether it's clinical or non-clinical, feel free to reach me in my DMs through Instagram, and we can potentially have a chat and see if you're a good fit to work with me. Now, once you figure out what NHS Trust is actively sponsoring, they've sponsored in the past, they've got good funding, and they're in a fairly decent location, then you move on to the pathway. There's two main things that you can do. Either you go with a recruitment agency, or either you do it direct. My advice to every international student out there, try to go direct. And the reason is that you will then understand how NHS works, what the application process is like, and how you can do those interviews, create those supporting statements. We'll get into more detail about supporting statements in a bit. So, really, the number one thing before you even go and apply for any NHS role, understand the NHS, understand the structure of it, understand what band you're going to be applying for, understand what role you're going to be applying for, and understand the top 10, 20 trusts in the UK that actively sponsor, and then obviously choose the pathway properly. Once you're done with that, then you get ready to apply for the NHS. You don't apply yet, you get ready to apply. Now, many individuals that are applying to the NHS usually requires some sort of certifications or licenses. For example, if you're a physiotherapist, you need HCPC, and this is really important. And other roles require this as well. And most international students don't realize that they need these licenses, memberships, and registrations with different bodies so that they can actually apply for that role and be considered for it. Because the NHS, essentially in their job description, they've got essential and desirable criteria, and usually these registrations, they're in the essential criteria. And if you don't meet it, then you won't be getting selected. So make sure that you get those relevant uh, NHS licenses or registrations so that you basically meet the minimum criteria and you can apply for the job easily. Now, one thing to keep in mind that we do help with finding out what registrations you should be getting inside TGN. Again, TGN, we help international students land jobs in the NHS inside it. And if you do want to land a job, we've actually got a Band 7 NHS coach that teaches and holds multiple NHS training sessions on how to land the job inside the NHS. If you want to join those specific NHS training sessions, drop me a DM and let's have a chat and see if you'll be a good fit to join. Now, the next one is optional. And the reason it's optional is if you're applying from outside the UK, then you need IELTS. But if you're applying from inside the UK and you've got a master's or bachelor's from the UK or from a majority English speaking nation, then you do not need to give IELTS at all. But if you're someone with a dependent visa and you do not have a UK degree, then you will have to pass the English test. This applies for anyone on a dependent visa, on a spouse visa, on a partner visa, or on a youth mobility visa as well. So make sure that you've passed your IELTS and you have a really good score. Now, this building the NHS CV is probably the most important thing, and everyone gets this wrong, by the way. The reason people get this wrong is because they think that they're just writing a glorified cover letter. NHS supporting statements are literally the sole reason that you will get an interview. And if you don't write it down properly, you are going to get rejected, and you will get rejected so fast that you won't even realize it. Now, the way that NHS scores its supporting statements, and I have insider information because number one, I've helped 100 plus international students land jobs at NHS. Number two is I've been in the UK for 8 years. I have so many contacts inside NHS that work in NHS in very high level roles. So they tell me everything. Supporting statement, the way it's judged. Number one, you have to fill out your essential criteria properly. Everything they've mentioned in the job description, fill it out. The desirable criteria. Everything in the desirable criteria does not need to be met, but if you do meet it, then the chances of getting an interview are going to be massive. You will be prioritized over someone that doesn't meet those specific criteria. So make sure you do that. The third most important thing, and 90% of international students miss this out, make sure you include the NHS core values of that specific trust that you're applying to. It is super simple how you can find this out. Just write NHS core values. After that, write down the trust that you're applying to and type this out on Google. And Google Gemini, for example, is going to be able to extract that information from different links and tell you what the NHS core values are for that specific trust. Each trust usually has different core values. So make sure that you do your research properly and then include it throughout your supporting statement. Usually, supporting statements are about 1,500 words long. You ideally want to sit somewhere between 1,200 to 1,500. Anything less than that, way too short. You don't want it less than 1,200 words. So try to aim for that 1,200 to that 1,500 mark. Okay? So that's NHS supporting statements covered. The next thing is getting your documents ready. Now, this could be after you get the offer, or it could be before. It really depends. But usually, what they do require is that they require three professional referees to give you references. One reference is character, one reference is professional, and one reference is education. Make sure that you have three good references and that the references have have professional email IDs that they can provide. You don't want to be using Gmail, Hotmail, Outlook for their emails when you do provide those references. You want professional emails so that the NHS doesn't reject you. Okay, make sure you do that. So, summary wise, in preparing for your application for the NHS, register with a body, pass the English test, IELTS, TOEFL, whatever it is, properly, get that desired score, build your NHS CV, which is not actually a CV, it's a supporting statement. Think of it like a super, super long document about your whole work experience, education, skills, and knowledge, and then get your documents ready properly. I'll put a list of documents that you need here. Now, what is the most important thing now? Most important thing is number three is that you need to make your job applications. Job applications are super important. And what portal should you be using? Should you be using LinkedIn? Should you be using Indeed? Should you be using Glassdoor? What do you use? Look, NHS has its own portal, Track Jobs, which is now healthjobs.ac.uk. Use that. Number two is just use nhsjobs.gov.uk, I believe. Okay, type it out on Google, NHS Jobs, Track Jobs, and you'll be redirected to it. So make sure you utilize that. That's the best website to use. They post jobs daily. Make sure you filter it out exactly by band, by salary, and by what type of role you're going for. Is it clinical, non-clinical? It really depends, but track jobs and NHS jobs are the best. Number two is tailoring your application. Like I mentioned before, essential and desirable criteria are needed. If you don't tailor your application to the essential and desirable criteria for the NHS, you will get rejected. You can use star examples if you want, but you don't need to. See, NHS encourages using structured formats, but you don't have to use a structured format. There's no specific criteria. They don't say that you have to use star. They can encourage you, but you don't have to. So make sure you tailor your applications properly. That's super important. Number three in your application is your interview. NHS has two styles of interview, by the way. They've got a clinical interview and a non clinical interview. If you're going for non clinical roles, your clinical interview is going to be a technical interview. So if you go for a data analyst role, for example, in the NHS, that clinical interview is going to become a technical interview. They'll ask you about your skills, your experience in a technical point of view. But if you're going for a clinical interview, then that's going to be a situational based interview. They're going to give you case studies. They're going to put you in different scenarios, for example, and you're going to have to answer questions based on that. They might put you in a hospital setting, for example. And we essentially help international students inside TGN to prep for NHS interviews as well. So if you're someone that wants help with the NHS interviews, we hold sessions every month on how to give interviews for the NHS, whether that's clinical or non-clinical. So if you do want to join TGN NHS, just drop me a DM on Instagram and I'll have a chat with you and see if you're a good fit for it. Once you pass the clinical and non-clinical interview, you're going to get the verbal offer. Then you'll get the contractual offer. It is extremely vital that you make sure you read the contract in the proper way and see the SOC code that has been assigned to you and then match that SOC code with the salary that's required for sponsorship. You can just go on gov.uk and you'll be able to figure this out. Okay? Once you figure that out, then you're going to be assigned your cost, and this cost basically is certificate of sponsorship. Cost is what gets you the skilled worker visa. If you're applying for NHS, it might be the health and care visa. You need to double check this. Okay. The perfect thing about NHS usually is that the IHS is waived off because you're in the health and care work visa. But if you're on a skilled worker visa, it's not waived off. You need to check this yourself, confirm it. If you want to hire an immigration lawyer to check this for you, you can do that as well. Contact me for our references for immigration lawyers, and we're more than happy to help you out. But make sure that you confirm your cost, you confirm if it's going to be a health and care visa, and then they're also going to be doing DBS checks. So make sure that you have an up to date DBS so that you are up to date with everything and you can begin working ASAP. Once you've done that, congratulations. You have completed the NHS job applications from scratch to offer. This is the roadmap to it. And if you're an individual that wants to land the job inside the NHS and you want my support and you want to get coached by me on a daily basis until you land that job, then we can potentially help you out if you're a perfect fit for us. Drop me a DM on Instagram. Just message me saying that you need help with NHS applications, and then we can have a conversation about it and see if I can help you out.